In this video, we will walk through an example of conditional expectations being applied to survival functions. Let's get started. You are given the following survival function for LED light bulbs in years. S of x is equal to 1 minus x over 30, all to the power of 1/2, for x between 0 and 30. A homeowner replaced his kitchen light within an LED light bulb 24 months ago, and it is still functioning today. Calculate the probability that the LED light bulb will stop working between 24 months and 81 months from today. For this problem, one of the core principles we need to understand is Bayes Theorem. So that is the probability of x given y is just equal to the probability of x and y divided by the probability of y. So more commonly, you'll see it in this notation on the right, which is the probability of x and y is just equivalent to the probability of x occurring, and then the probability of y occurring. But at that point, you know x occurred, and so you need to say y given x. So this is just another way of writing x and y. And then you're dividing by the possible domain, which is only when y occurred, and that's why you're dividing by that probability of y. So that's just Bayes' theorem. Next, you need to understand survival functions. So if you know what a CDF is, a survival function is just 1 minus the CDF. In terms of a kind of specific application of it, although this all just falls from you understanding CDFs and 1 minus that value is the survival function, is when you are interested in ranges. So what's the probability of x falling between a and b? For a CDF, since it's the probability of being less than a specified value, that's just equal to the probability of being less than b, subtract off the cases when you're also less than a, and that's going to get you this in-between range. If we then say, okay, well, I want it in terms of survival functions, so you just sub in 1 minus s of that value for f, and then this all simplifies, these ones cancel, and then the negatives flip. And so when you want to find a range, instead of f of b minus f of a, it's s of a, the lower value, minus s of b. So not really something worth memorizing, but just thought I'd maybe take a moment to walk through that. But really, as long as you know survival is equal to 1 minus the CDF, you're good to go for this type of problem. And then finally, how to reread problems. So I feel like I've said this a few times in a row. I make mistakes all the time prepping these videos, and it almost always stems from me reading the problem too quickly or not rereading. So for this problem, there were two mistakes I made, actually. So first off, the first mistake I made was not recognizing that this survival function is in terms of years. So x corresponds to years, not months, and everything else is in terms of months. Thankfully, that was easy to catch because I plugged in a value and then got a negative value for the survival function. And that's another reason why it's important to know the domain of different things. So I know that I needed to get a positive value, so the fact that I got a negative value meant I made a mistake, and that led me to reread the problem and realize, oh, this is in terms of years, not months. The second mistake I made, I did not realize until I looked up the solution, which was that 24 months ago and 24 months correspond to two separate 24-month periods. So you know that the LED light bulbs lasted for 2 years, and then you want to know what happens, what's the probability of it dying another 24 months later. So that's not 2 years, that's at the 4-year mark. So that was something else I messed up, was not realizing that we're currently at year 2, and you want to know what's the probability that the light bulb dies between year 4 and year whatever this is. So just want to call that out, that it's good to read problems carefully. So jumping into the calculations, first we're going to be applying that Bayes theorem. So we want to know what's the probability that you fall in the specified range. So again, that's, you survived that first 2 years, but what about another 2 years? Sorry, not survive. So what's the probability the light bulb let me reread the problem a third time here. We want to know the probability of the light bulb failing in that time frame. So what's the probability that it dies out in between the 4-year mark and then the 2-year plus 81 month mark, given that you survived that first 2 years? And then that's just 48 months and 105 months. So at this point, applying Bayes' theorem, we get this. So it's the probability of the thing of interest and the conditional divided by the probability of the conditional. And one thing that's really nice that works out here is the probability of you being greater than 24, assuming you're already in between 48 and 105, is 100%. So we actually can just drop this off because it is given that you're lasting more than 2 years if you fail between the 4-year mark and the 105 month mark. So then finally what we can do is say the probability of you being greater than 24 is just equivalent to the survival function given 24. And this is where I started plugging in values and got a negative value, and so I realized I had to convert these to years. So that's why we go from these numbers to the correct year values. So 4 years and 8.75 years. And this is applying what we talked about earlier of the probability of falling in a range if you're using a survival function is the survival function value for the lower bound, subtract the survival function value for the upper bound. So at this point, it's really just plug and chug. So S of 2, 1 minus 2 years over 30, all to the power of 1/2 is 0.9661. Then we plug and chug for the other 2 as well and get these numbers. Finally, just plug that in, put it all in your calculator, and you get 0.0924. Scrolling up, we see that falls in the range of B. So B is our final answer. If nothing else, I've learned I need to up my light bulb game. Otherwise, just want to say thanks for watching, always appreciate it. Please consider subscribing if you like these videos or find them helpful. Thanks. Time to get some light bulbs.